going to take a store-bought Easter bunny, okay, hollow, okay, it's got to be hollow and it needs to be big. And look at that bargain price, $9.48. And I'm going to turn this into a stuffed over the top hollow Easter bunny surprise. I guess that's what you can call it. You can call it whatever you want. But anyway, so a couple of things. When you do this, it's a good idea. This was actually suggested to me by my granddaughter, who is 10, to stick it in the freezer for a little bit because we have hot hands, and you know, just to get it a little bit chilled before you start handling it. I also recommend working with some vinyl gloves just to kind of cut down on some of the heat and just the stickiness. I also learned the hard way that the ears are the thinnest area, so just really be careful, you know, because you're going to be kind of handling this a lot. So when you grab it, don't put your thumb in that front part. I used to do that when I was a kid with the glass ornaments, and I would break them all. It's the same thing. It's really, really thin there, so pull it out of the packaging really, really careful. Beautiful. Look how handsome he is. And I'm also gonna, I have found that some of these don't stand very well, so, you know, check it out. And if it doesn't stand, you could, you know, kind of even out the bottom a little bit with a knife, but just as long as it's standing, you know what, it really is okay. There's a couple of ways to do this, and you know, you can, what you're going to do is you're going to cut a hole. So you can cut a hole in the bottom, you can cut a hole in the back, it all depends, but don't cut a hole anywhere in the ears. This area around here is usually pretty thick, but really, if you don't want people to see where you cut, I recommend cutting the bottom, okay? So to cut it, I am also, if you don't know, if you haven't checked out my Instagram, but you probably have because you're on it now, or if you're looking at this on another platform, at Nancy Baker Food Artist, and I carve pumpkins. So I have all kinds of pumpkin carving tools. When I teach a workshop, I give people, you know, these cheapy little pumpkin master things because they're safe. But this is actually a great way to cut open your bunny. The one that has a little more pointed edge and a serrated edge, that's really what you need. You can also use one of the flat tip ones, but you might need to puncture a hole with your X-Acto knife, or if you have a hot knife, which is an X-Acto knife that plugs in, basically, that actually works really well too, because it kind of melts the chocolate as you go. Or you could use the X-Acto knife. You just have to be really mindful that as you're, you know, if you're really struggling, you're going to end up putting pressure on it, and you're going to puncture it and ruin it, okay? Because once it has a hole in it, it's really hard to piece back together, okay? So I'm going to use my little saw right here, and really, really carefully, I'm just going to put them down, lay them down, and I want to cut an opening, and just really carefully, I have to be really mindful not to puncture, not to squeeze really tightly. I think the hardest part is getting that first little puncture. So now I have it in, and when you're using these, it's just like when I go and do a pumpkin workshop, people, you know, they get started before I have a chance to tell them things because they're so excited, which I get it. I think carving pumpkins is exciting too, but you have to saw. Sawing is better. So if you have maybe a serrated, so I have all kinds of really fun things here. Ring pop, and, you know, of course you got to have these, whatever will fit in there, you know, have some fun with it, you know, candy bracelets, jelly beans, all that. But then I thought, you know, what if there was a chocolate bunny in the chocolate bunny? What's inside this chocolate bunny? So now I'm just going to have fun with it, and I'm just going to start putting things in there. Okay, so now I want to put my piece of chocolate back, and I'm gonna do that. I have this extra bunny that I just broke off a piece, and you don't need a whole lot. I just broke off a little piece, put it in a bowl, and I'm gonna melt this in the microwave for about a minute until it gets soft. Be right back. Okay, so now I have my melted chocolate. Actually, it was about 30 seconds. And I just have a paintbrush. This is a paintbrush I used for my food art, but any clean paintbrush, but it would be better if you got a new one and just used it for your food art, because you're a food artist now. If you do this, you are a food artist. All right, and now I lost my piece. Here it is. All right, so really carefully, and there, jam that back in there. So I have to figure out which way it goes that way. All right, so I'm just gonna take a little bit of the chocolate and just put it on the edge. This is just our glue. Putting on our glue, and all the way around. It doesn't dry super quick, so it doesn't dry as quick as a hot glue gun, so you don't have to worry too much. Okay, we're just gonna set that over there. And now really carefully, and I found that if I take, because it's kind of hard to get it in place, but if I take, even if maybe you did this with a toothpick or something, so now I can kind of hold it and put that back in place. Okay, and then carefully, I might just hold that in place until it starts setting up. I'm just gonna take my paintbrush before all my chocolate in the bowl sets up, and I'm going to, I don't wanna make any big lumps because then he's not gonna sit flat. Okay, but you guys get the idea. There's no wrong way to do it. I guess the wrong way would be if it fell apart and broke. And then you know what? You get to eat it. That's the great thing about food art. You get to eat your mistakes. So I'm gonna let this set up for just a little bit. If I had this on a tray, okay, then I would stick it in the freezer for a little bit. But let's let it set up for just a minute or two. Okay, so it sat for just a couple of minutes. And now really carefully, okay, he's lots heavier. It's gonna sit up, okay? And, okay, so it's time to smash it. So use whatever you have around. You use an ice cream scooper, or we eat a lot of crabs and we crack them open with one of these. So I'm gonna go with my crab mallet. Ready? Or you know what would even be better? If you just like held it up really high and dropped it. That would be more my style. Well, let's give it a hit. All that candy goodness. It's like an Easter basket in the bunny. Good gracious, that's a lot of stuff. Okay, now it's his turn. And this last one, I'm just gonna take a bite out of it. That's freaking amazing. Sweet tarts and chocolate. Highly recommend. So when you're done, you can stick it back in the box and give it as a gift. You can wrap it in some cellophane, put a pretty bow on it, or you can just eat it right away. But whatever you do, just have a lot of fun creating your own bunny bombs.